everyone. Welcome to Anatomy Exam Points. It's an important session, and I welcome you all once again to our YouTube Live. So, MRCOG courses is always committed for the exam preparation in 70% less study time. So, we focus on what comes in exam. So, therefore, exam points are the most important ones, right? So we need to discuss these exam points again and again, and just memorize them so brilliantly that we can just go through the exam in a one go with 70% less study time. So anatomy exam points is the today's topic, and I welcome you all. So we will be going through few of the questions and which are repeatedly, the concepts are repeatedly asked in exams. Simultaneously, we will be also discussing the important information about those exam points because many a times the topics remain the same, but the information may be slightly different. So we will be talking about that as well. And you all are welcome to answer the questions in the live chat. And please do keep answering the questions in live chat. Okay, so I'll be following you there, and all your questions and your feedbacks are always welcome. So myself, Dr. Bhavna Khera, I welcome you from MRCOG courses to this anatomy exam points session. And of course, once I take you through this session, you will come to know how easy things will become with MRCOG courses and how easy it becomes to memorize the things with the techniques we use. So here we start with our today's session. So my first question, the venous drainage of the right ovary is? The venous drainage of the right ovary is. So basically, is it superior mesenteric vein? Is it inferior vena cava? Is it left renal vein, right renal vein, or inferior mesenteric vein? It's a direct question. Why it is important? Because wherever there are exceptions, RCOG loves those exceptions, and they are the important exam points. So what is the exception here? The drainage of the right ovary and the left ovary is different. That's the exception, right? So right ovary drains where and the left ovary drains where? That's the exam point. So what is the correct answer here? Please start answering in the chat, live chat. Yes. Correct. Okay. So basically the correct answer here is the inferior vena cava. Inferior vena cava is the correct answer here. The left ovary drains into the left renal vein, while the right ovary drains through the right ovarian vein into the inferior vena cava directly. Now, it seems very easy right now, but I believe that when we are in the exam, we are liable to confuse this. So why not fix the information then and there, right? So why not fix the information now? So what is the easy way to remember the venous drainage of ovarian veins? L for L. So left ovarian vein drains into the left renal vein. You will say that, why not L for R? Renal is there, but it's not. We are going to take it as left for left. So left into the left renal vein. And R is going directly, right direction, just direct route. So it directly goes to the IVC. So right side is a shortcut. Right direction, if you go, you don't have to walk much. So right side is the shortcut. So directly to the IVC. You go left and right. So it's a long route. L stands for the long route. Takes a detour. So you go to the left renal vein first and then come to the IVC. So basically, right side, shortcut. Go directly to IVC. Left side, you go the long route, take a detour, go to the left renal vein, and then go to the IVC. I hope you will not forget this in the exam now. You can let me know in the live chat whether you find this way of remembering Interesting or not? Okay, so let's move on to the next question. The blood supply to the fallopian tube. The blood supply to the fallopian tube is by which vessels? Is it ovarian? Is it uterine artery, ovarian and uterine arteries, external iliac artery, or the internal iliac artery? The blood supply to the fallopian tube is by the ovarian artery, uterine artery, ovarian and uterine arteries, external iliac artery, and the internal iliac artery, right? So which is the correct answer? Yes, following you in the live chat. Okay, great. So yes, ovarian and the uterine arteries is the correct answer. Because the laterally there is the ovary and the medially there is the uterus. So from both sides the vessels are coming. So it is from both the sides, ovarian as well as the uterine. So there are some important points here, which are exam points from the fallopian tube. So ampulla. Ampulla is the widest and the longest part, and this is the site of the fertilization. So ampulla is the widest and the longest part, and it's the site of fertilization. Isthmus, that's the narrowest part, just lateral to the uterus. Intramural part is that the intramyometrial which goes into the myometrium, so it pierces the uterine wall. And the fallopian tube is lined by the ciliated columnar epithelium. Ciliated columnar epithelium. Here I would like to mention about the Cartagener's syndrome, in which there is a immotile cilia syndrome. So this is lined by the ciliated columnar epithelium for the normal functioning. And the blood supply is by the ovarian and the uterine arteries. Similarly, the lymphatics also follow the same. So because the supply is coming from the ovarian and the uterine, so the lymphatics for the ovarian will go along to the aortic, and with the uterine will go to the internal iliac nodes. So they will follow the arteries. So you have covered 5-6 exam questions in this particular slide. So that's why when we give you the concise information, easy to memorize, that's how we decrease your study time by 70%. So if you are looking to pass quickly with the less study time, you are at the right place. So ampulla, widest and longest. Isthmus is the narrowest. Intramural is the pierces uterine wall. It is lined by the ciliated columnar epithelium. Remember the Cartagener's syndrome here. And blood supply is by the ovarian and the uterine arteries, and lymphatics follow the same. Okay. Thank you for answering in the live chat. Thank you for participating. So let's come to the SPA3. Somatic sensory innervation of the lower third of the vagina. So we are talking about the vaginal innervation, that is vaginal nerve supply. So somatic innervation to the lower 1/3 of the vagina. From where does it comes from? It comes from the pelvic splanchnic. It comes from the lumbar splanchnic, pudendal, superficial femoral nerve, and the obturator nerve. Very easy to answer if you remember the embryological origin of the vagina, right? The upper part of the vagina is derived from the endodermal part, and the lower part has a different embryological origin. So the upper part will receive the supply from the continuity, like whatever nerves are supplying the uterus, cervix, and that will come to the upper part. But the lower part comes from the surrounding areas of the perineum. So as it comes from the surrounding areas of the perineum, so that becomes the pudendal nerve, right? So that becomes the pudendal nerve. So pudendal nerve, that supplies the perineum, and that's the one which supplies the lower 1/3 of the vagina. So answer is C. Blood supply, again, the vaginal artery, which is mostly a direct branch of the internal iliac artery, but it can be a branch of uterine artery as well. Lymphatics, upper third goes to internal and external iliac nodes because they follow the uterine and the internal iliac arteries. Middle third goes to the internal iliac, and the lower third, what I told you, it's coming from the outside, from the surrounding areas of the perineum. So it goes to the superficial inguinal nodes. Upper two-thirds is supplied by the inferior hypogastric plexus. Parasympathetic is from the pelvic splanchnic nerves and sympathetic from the lumbar splanchnic nerves. But the lower part, the lower one-third is supplied by the pudendal nerve, both the autonomic as well as the somatic sensation. Now coming to the SB4. The posterior border of the pelvic outlet. The posterior border of the pelvic outlet is formed by. So, here you see ischial tuberosities, sacrospinous or the sacrotuberous ligaments, ilioinguinal ligaments, then coccyx and the sacral promontory. So, if you see the diagram here, this is the pelvic outlet, the diamond-shaped cavity. So anteriorly is the pubic arch. Laterally, you see the ischial tuberosities and the ligaments. And posteriorly, what do you see is the coccyx. So that's the correct answer. Very good. So that's the correct answer. The pelvic outlet is diamond-shaped with the following borders. Posterior is coccyx, lateral is ischial tuberosities, anterior is pubic arch, which is formed by the symphysis pubis and the ischiopubic rami. The more you go through the diagrams, the more clearly you remember. The more the mnemonics you make, the more the things you keep on correlating with each other. Like I correlated with the lining epithelium of the fallopian tube with the cartilaginous, and we talked of these things, like we remembered those points again and again. So then it becomes very easy to memorize the things for the exam purpose. So the easy way to remember the pelvic outlet borders, think of a diamond with a C-PAR border. C-PAR border. C, coccyx is posterior. I is the ischial tuberosities on the lateral side, pubic arches anterior, and A stand for the arches of ischiopubic rami forming the pubic arch. So just remember the C-PAR, and that's here you go. Okay. Which one of the above organs is correctly paired with its parasympathetic nerve supply? Which one of the above organs is correctly paired with its parasympathetic nerve supply? So here, the urinary bladder is paired with the lumbar splanchnic nerves. Small intestine is paired with the pelvic splanchnic nerves. Descending colon paired with the vagus nerve. Vagina with the lumbar splanchnic nerves, and ovary with the vagus nerve. Slightly tricky question, right? Slightly tricky, but we'll make it easy, right? I've promised to make the things easy so that by the end of the session, when you finish the session, you will remember these questions till exams. You don't have to revise it even, right? So which one of the above organs is correctly paired with its parasympathetic nerve supply? So the correct answer here is ovary and the vagus nerve. Now, how to remember this? So remember the parasympathetic from the craniosacral, right? From the cranium to the sacral. So the upper part is basically the cranial part is the 10th nerve. It is carried by the vagus nerve. And the lower part is carried by the pelvic splanchnic nerves. So just remember the two things here for the parasympathetic. The vagus for the cranial and the pelvic splanchnic nerves, which is S2, 3, 4. Now, gut innervation up to the splenic flexure. Up to the splenic flexure is supplied by the vagus nerve. After the splenic flexure, that is pelvic splanchnic nerves, colon distal to the splenic flexure and the pelvic viscera is supplied by the pelvic splanchnic nerves. Bladder control, the micturition, again it is by the pelvic splanchnic nerves because it leads to the pelvic splanchnic nerves. Parasympathetic leads to peeing, right? PPP, pelvic splanchnic nerves, parasympathetic, leads to peeing. Peeing means passing past the urine, there has to be the contraction of the detrusor. So when the detrusor contraction occurs, it completely empties the bladder. And for this, basically the detrusor has to contract and the urethra has to relax, right? Bladder will contract, but urethra has to give way. So it is contracts the bladder and inhibits the sphincters. Again, the pudendal nerve, that is S234, that will give the voluntary control. So that will be the voluntary control for the urethral sphincter. Now the ovary has the vagus nerve because ovary is derived from the segments above. Cervix and the upper vagina will be from the pelvic splanchnic nerves. So this is how we can remember. So for the parasympathetic, just remember the vagus and the parasympathetic nerves. So now we have seen urinary bladder should be by the pelvic splanchnic nerves. We said all the pelvic viscera are supplied by the pelvic splanchnic nerves. So instead of lumbar splanchnic, this should be pelvic splanchnic. Small intestine. So we read that till the splenic flexure of the large intestine, it is the vagus nerves. So what should be the correct pair for the small intestine? The correct pair for the small intestine is vagus nerve. Now coming to the descending colon. Descending colon is after the splenic flexure, right? It is after the splenic flexure. So it should be supplied by the pelvic splanchnic nerves. So here it is vagus nerve, so this is also wrong. Vagina is supplied by the pelvic splanchnic nerve. So again, D is wrong. So E is the correct answer, right? So this is how we could remember our important points. Now, with respect to anatomy of the female external genitalia, which is correct? With respect to anatomy of the female external genitalia, which is correct? The labia majora fuse posteriorly to form the foresheet. The vestibule is bound laterally by the labia majora. The clitoris is located at the base of vestibule. The foresheet is located at the apex of the vestibule, and the urethra opens within the vestibule posterior to the clitoris. So here, let's draw a diagram, right? So basically, inside there is the labia minora, then there is the labia majora. Now, this is the difference between the two labia minora is the vestibule, right? And the place where it meets posteriorly is the foresheet. Anteriorly is the clitoris. Now let's look at all the statements. The labia majora fuse posteriorly to form the foresheet. So we just see that the labia minora fuse to form the foresheet. So this is incorrect statement. Vestibule is bound laterally by the labia majora. So we just saw that vestibule is bound by the labia minora. So this is again an incorrect statement. The clitoris is located at the base of vestibule. Now this is the vestibule, so clitoris is located at the apex. So this should be apex, right? So this is again the incorrect statement. Foresheet is located at the apex of the vestibule. This is again an incorrect statement because instead of apex, this should be the base. So we are left with the final statement, which is urethra opens within the vestibule posterior to clitoris. So here is the urethra just posterior to clitoris. So this is the correct statement. So our correct answer is E. This is how we can come to our answers, and I think it is very simple to understand and hope you all have got the concept. If you still have questions, you are welcome to ask in your live chat. That's always you can do it. I'll be happy to answer those. So here E is the correct answer. Okay. The levator ani muscle is not attached to which one of the above structures? The levator ani muscle is not attached to which one of the above structures? Body of the pubic bone, obturator fascia, ischial spines, perineal body, or the ala of sacrum. So, body of pubic bone, obturator fascia, ischial spines, perineal body, and the ala of the sacrum. To which one the levator ani is not attached? So yes, the body of the pubic bone, it's going down from the obturator fascia, it is coming from the laterally, from the ischial spines again it is coming, and in the perineal body, yes, but it is not attached to the ala of sacrum. So E is the correct answer. Levator ani muscle origin from the back of the body of the pubis, obturator fascia, and the ischial spine, and it inserts in the perineal body. So anterior fibers, they go around the vagina, and go into the, forms the sphincter around the vagina and go to the perineal body. Intermediate fibers, they form the median raphe and the anococcygeal body, while the posterior fibers, the iliococcygeal, they come from the posterior to the center and form the anococcygeal body and the coccyx. So this is how the insertions are. So there is nothing to do with the ala of the sacrum. So that's the correct answer here. Okay. Now, the relations of the ovarian fossa. So, what lies at the superior border of the ovarian fossa? What lies at the superior border of the ovarian fossa? So, let's presume this is an ovary, big ovary, yeah, okay, but easy to understand. We are just trying to put up a line diagram here. So, this is the ovary. So, the aorta. So, aorta is going to come, okay, and then it breaks into the common iliac, and common iliac into the external iliac and the internal iliac, right? So, you see that the external iliac lies here, while the internal iliac goes here, right? So, what is superior to the ovarian fossa? So, you can clearly see this is the external iliac artery at the vein. So, if you remember the diagrammatic representation, whenever you are reading, this is a very important trick for anatomy. Whenever you are reading the anatomy, draw a line diagram for yourself. Just a rough diagram, right? You see, I just draw a big ovary. That's it, fine. We are here to remember the things, right? So the easy way of remembering is just draw a simple line diagram and just see where the structures are. You will never forget this. So the correct answer is external iliac artery and vein. Now, so what is the quick tip here? So superior is external iliac, inferior is internal, inferior for eye. So I for eye. So inferior for ureter and the internal iliac vessels, and floor is formed by the obturator nerve. So E-I-U-I-O, E-I-U-I-O. So external iliac is superior, internal iliac is inferior, ureter is inferior, and the obturator nerve is at the floor. E-I-U-I-O. Just remember this way the ovarian fossa. So it will be easy for you to remember in the exam. So this is a tip for the structures around the ovarian fossa. Another important exam question. Now, coming to the SPA 9. The sacroiliac joint, you know, you find this question very simple, very small, but I think you can find this question in almost 80% of your exam papers, right? So sacroiliac joint, this is a, what do you think? Is it cartilaginous? It is fibrocartilaginous. Is it ball and socket? What it is? It's a synovial joint, yes. Although the mobility is restricted, but it is still a synovial joint, right? So it's something you need to remember about it, because if you just think about the movement, then you may not be comfortable with the synovial joint and you would like to go with the fibrocartilaginous or cartilaginous joint. But remember, this is a synovial joint. And I tell you, because this is something unique, something exception, that's why this is a favorite question of RCOG. But I'm here to tell you what is favorite of RCOG. So just be in touch with me, follow, and so that you can know what is favorite of RCOG and what is going to come in your exam. Okay, so coming to the SPA 10. Important question. So here, basically in this slide, there are 3 questions with the same options. 3 questions with the same options. So first we'll talk about the forms the base of the ischiorectal fossa. What forms the base of the ischiorectal fossa? So is it a skin? Is it an anal canal? Or is it the obturator internus muscle? So it's the skin which forms the base of the ischiorectal fossa. What is there in the lateral wall of the ischiorectal fossa? Just let me draw a line diagram. Again, the same concept we are going to use here. So this is the anal canal, and your ischiorectal fossa is the triangular subspace here. So levator ani, and then here is your obturator internus muscle. So now this is the triangular space, this is levator ani, this is obturator internus, and this is anal canal. Okay, so how it will be? So skin is the base, then it's the B, that is what forms the lateral wall of the ischiorectal fossa. So obturator internus. So lateral will be the C answer. And what forms the medial wall of the ischiorectal fossa? So it's the anal canal. So this is the correct answer. So answers will be A, skin forms the base. Lateral wall of the ischiorectal fossa is formed by the obturator internus, and the medial wall is formed by the anal canal. So it is A, C, B, and let's just check. That's it. So this way you can remember your ischiorectal fossa. Relations. And you know, this question comes almost in 80% of your exam papers. So we are correct. It's ACP. So ischiorectal fossa is a very, very, very important space, and questions do come. Why it is important? Because this is a place where there could be a concealed hemorrhage, and you could miss upon this hemorrhage and your patient may deteriorate. So therefore, it is very important to know about this space for your exam questions and for your practice as well. Okay, so here is an easy way to remember the ischiorectal fossa. The shape and contents, it is a wedge-shaped space filled with the fat, gives a cushioning effect. Boundaries, base is skin, think of it as a bottom layer. Medial wall is the anal canal and the levator ani muscle, important for pelvic support, and lateral wall is formed by the obturator internus muscle. Actually, levator ani comes like a slanting thing. So part of it is medial, part of it is lateral. Most of it is actually lateral. So key structures include the pudendal nerve supply for the perineum. Internal pudendal vessels are the part of it. They run in the lateral wall of the pudendal canal. So in the lateral wall, there is a specific name for the pudendal canal, right? So there is basically the canal is there through which these structures will pass. Pudendal canal is also known as the Alcock's canal. So that's another important exam question. So remember as SEMO, instead of SUMO, this is SAMO. Skin, anal, medial, and obturator. Okay, with respect to anatomy of the pelvis, which is a correct statement? The cavity of the pelvis has a shallow posterior wall and the deep anterior wall. The cavity of the pelvis has a shallow posterior wall and the deep anterior wall. The ischial spines are at the level of the mid cavity. The pubic bone does not form part of the acetabulum. The ischial tuberosities form the medial border of the pelvic outlet, and the true pelvis is that part of the pelvis between the pelvic inlet and the ischial spines. So basically the cavity of the pelvis that has the deep posterior and the shallow anterior part. So your A option is false. The ischial spines are at the level of mid cavity. This is correct. Pubic bone does not form the part of acetabulum. This is wrong because all the three bones form the part of acetabulum. The ischial tuberosities form the medial border of the pelvic outlet. That's wrong. They form the lateral border. And the true pelvis is that part of the pelvis between the pelvic inlet and the ischial spines. This is wrong, right? It is between the pelvic inlet and the pelvic outlet. So B is the correct statement. So ischial spines are at the level of the mid cavity, and that's the correct answer here. Yes, I could see everybody answering in the live chat, and that's great to see the answers. Thank you so much for joining today. Why other options are not correct? The part of the lateral border is formed by the sacrospinous and the sacrotuberous ligaments, which convert the greater and the lesser sciatic notches into the greater and lesser sciatic foramina. The pelvic cavity has the shallow anterior wall and the deeper posterior wall. The ischial spines are at the level of the mid cavity. And the acetabulum is formed by all three bones, that is ilium, ischium, and the pubic bones. Now coming to which one of the above is not a branch of the pudendal nerve? So perineal nerve, is it a branch of pudendal nerve? Yes, this is one of the terminal branches. Dorsal nerve of clitoris is a branch of the pudendal nerve. Correct. Inferior rectal nerve is a branch of the pudendal nerve. Yes, in the ischiorectal fossa, the pudendal nerve gives a branch which is inferior rectal nerve that crosses the ischiorectal fossa from lateral to the medial side to supply the external anal sphincter. Nerve to obturator internus. What do you say? Is this a branch of pudendal nerve? No, this is not a branch of pudendal nerve. So therefore, D is the correct answer here. So remember IDP when we have to remember the branches of the pudendal nerve. You can remember it as ID, please. Imagine a security check at the perineum. As you go into the airport, you are asked for the ID, right? So same, as you enter the perineum, you should have an ID of the pudendal nerve. So ID, please. So I is inferior rectal nerve. D is the dorsal nerve of the clitoris, and P is the perineal nerve. Isn't it interesting? If you find it interesting, do let me know so that I'm motivated to make more such mnemonics for you. So IDP, inferior, dorsal, and perineal. So inferior is the inferior rectal nerve, D is the dorsal nerve of the clitoris, and P is the perineal nerve. Trick to recall is, imagine a security check at the perineum. So it's ID, please. Okay, the key to the obturator internus, the nerve to the obturator internus is a branch of sacral plexus, L5, S1, and S2, and it exits pelvis via the greater sciatic foramen, re-enters through the lesser sciatic foramen, and innervates the obturator internus and the superior gemellus. Okay, the uterine artery. This is a branch of the internal pudendal artery and is crossed by the ureter, or it reaches the cervix at the level of the external os, does not enter the broad ligament, and is a branch of the interior division of the internal iliac artery, which is the correct answer. Is a branch of internal pudendal artery is not correct. Is crossed by the ureter. So how do you remember the relationship of uterine artery in the ureter? Water under the bridge. So water always go below the vessel. Water under the bridge. So uterine artery at the top and water goes below it. So uterine artery is not crossed by the ureter. Uterine artery crosses the ureter. So B is wrong. Reaches the cervix at the level of the external os? No, it's at the level of internal os. Does not enter the broad ligament. Now, this is one confusing statement because some of the sources mention that it goes through the broad ligament. Some of the sources say that it goes through the transverse cervical ligament. And then is a branch of the anterior division of internal iliac artery. Now, here comes the concept of single best answer. So, single best answer is you have to choose the best answer. Now, if we look at D and E, then E is absolutely correct, while D is may or may not, right? So, E is the best answer here. The uterine artery is the branch of anterior division of internal iliac artery. Coming to the next question, that is SBA 14. Which one of the above statements regarding the cervix is correct? Which one of the above statements regarding the cervix is correct? The endocervical canal is lined by the cuboidal epithelium. The ectocervix is lined by stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. The squamocolumnar junction is located within the ectocervix. The endocervical canal links the internal os to the uterine cavity. Squamous cell carcinoma of the cervix typically arises from the ectocervix. So endocervical canal is lined by the cuboidal epithelium. Ectocervix is lined by the stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. Squamocolumnar junction is located within the ectocervix. Endocervical canal links the internal os to the uterine artery, and the squamous cell carcinoma of the cervix typically arises from the ectocervix. So basically, the correct answer is the B. The ectocervix is lined by the stratified squamous non-keratinizing epithelium. So now let's look at the other options. One is the endocervical canal is lined by the columnar epithelium. It's not cuboidal. Then squamocolumnar junction is located within the ectocervix. No, it's located outside. The endocervical canal links the internal os to the uterine cavity, and the squamous cell carcinoma of the cervix typically arises from the ectocervix. That's not either way. It could be the squamous cell carcinoma or it could be the adenocarcinoma. Okay. Now coming to the last question of the day about the hernia. The sac of this hernia lies below and lateral to the pubic tubercle. Which sac of the hernia lies below and lateral to the pubic tubercle? The direct inguinal hernia, indirect inguinal hernia, femoral hernia, Richter's hernia, or the epigastric hernia. Which one sac is below and lateral to the pubic tubercle? So the correct answer is, which is lateral. The femoral hernia is lateral to the pubic tubercle. So here comes the important table. So inguinal hernia, it is more common especially in males and right side. Direct, common in older males. Indirect is lateral to inferior epigastric vessels, and sac always above and medial to the pubic tubercle. Femoral is basically more common in females, and it is below and lateral to the pubic tubercle. So that's the correct answer here. Umbilical, certainly not at this place. Epigastric, not at this place. And Richter's also. So men mostly have inguinal, which is above and medial to the pubic tubercle, while the females have femoral, so it is below and lateral to the pubic tubercle. Yes. So that was all about the anatomy recalls for today. Learning is fun at MRCOG courses if you want to part of it. So you can just be in touch with us and start studying for your next exam. If you have any questions, just let me know in the live chat. I'm there to answer your questions. And if you want to comment on it, you want to give me any additional concepts or topics which you want me to help you with, or which you want me to teach that, separately, take a separate session for that, just let me know and we'll plan more sessions. We'll keep on doing such type of exam point sessions for the next subjects as well. So just subscribe and follow us for more content. Thank you so much for joining today. Thank you everyone for being here in the live chat. You all motivate and inspire me quite a lot. Thank you. Thank you so much.